On today's hot sheet, I'm discussing the road to Housing Act, the job openings and labor turnover survey. We've got ADP employment data and mortgage applications for the past week. Today is Wednesday, July 30, 2025. I am Byron Lazine, and the hot sheet starts now. It's officially Fed Day. Happy Fed Day. The FOMC will be closing out their meeting and making their decision on cuts. They're probably actively in that session right now. This afternoon, they'll release their prepared statement. Jerome Powell will then go on the presser and answer questions. And what we're looking for here today from Jerome Powell is not a rate cut, because we've been following it and tracking it leading up to this moment. 98% chance on CME Group that there will not be a cut today. Nobody's expecting it. Bank of America is not expecting it. None of the analysts are expecting it. 97% chance that there's no change according to Polymarket. So the degenerates out there putting money on what the Fed's going to do, they're not anticipating a cut. What we're looking for this afternoon is a couple of things. Number one, what everybody's looking for in the economy, or those that track the economy, is what signal is Jerome Powell going to make regarding the September meeting? Okay, September 17th is the next meeting. That's the next decision. Polymarket has a 56% chance that there'll be a 25 basis point cut. Are we going to get a signal from the Fed that they're starting to get ready to make cuts? Remember, the only time they've made cuts is leading up to the 2024 presidential election. Okay, that's when they signaled it. They signaled it about this time. Jackson Hole is going to happen between this meeting and next meeting, where I don't know, the Fed goes out and drinks a bunch of fancy wine in Jackson Hole and has an extra meeting once a year, the symposium in Jackson Hole. Beautiful place this time of year. Never been, but I see a lot of IG stories right now from those that are there. It looks great. Jerome Powell will get to go there. So they made the decision out in Jackson Hole last year leading up to the presidential election. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but that they were going to start cutting leading in. They signaled that to the market. They made those cuts, and they have hence stopped cutting the federal funds rate. We'll see what happens. What type of indication, if any, will be made this afternoon? The other thing that we're looking for is what will be said about housing. Okay. What is the chair of the Fed, chair for now, federal chairman Jerome Powell, going to say about housing? We'll be looking for that. We'll extract all the transcripts for you, and we'll go through it together tomorrow on the hot sheet. But we'll have it in its entirety, so you don't have to spend time listening and pulling it out. We know there is one voice that continues to talk about housing, and then we're going to get into this big bipartisan bill that impacts housing here in a second, Haley. But first, we know there's one voice that now is maybe the loudest voice on the planet when it comes to the U.S. housing market. This from this morning, President Trump's Truth Social. I'm not on Truth Social, by the way. Just to be clear, you can't find me at Byron Lazine on Truth Social. You can find me at Byron Lazine on X, but the screenshots always end up on X, so I just wait for them there. Second quarter GDP came out this morning. It's at 3%. It's the initial reading. These can be adjusted down the road. Here's from Trump's Truth Social. 3%, way better than expected. Quotation marks, too late. We know who too late is. That's Jerome Too Late Powell in Trump's nicknaming words. Too late must now lower the rate. Kind of a bar there from the president. Too late must now lower the rate. No inflation. Let people buy and refinance their homes. That last line, let people buy and refinance their homes. This is the last piece of the puzzle for unlocking the economy. You can love President Trump. You can hate President Trump. It's not what this is about. Not recognizing that the stock market is at an all-time high and has reached multiple all-time highs since the tariff disaster would just be not opening your eyes. I don't know what to say. It would be dumb because it's like, hey, today the sky is blue. Okay, yeah, the sky is blue. Okay, yeah, the stock markets have hit all-time highs. These trade deals continue to take shape, right? The EU is supposedly going to be the hardest trade deal. You know, they're saying, oh, well, why don't we get Canada done? We don't need to get Canada done. I mean, that's part of the thing. Canada needs the U.S. market way more than the U.S. needs Canada. So multiple trade deals have been done. Sorry to my Canadian friends. It just happens to be the truth. Okay. Look at all this data now that's starting to pile up. I mean, listen, again, you can hate Trump. We're just talking about the economy, and the economic wins are piling up. This is another one. And so Trump and the administration know the last piece of this is to hammer home housing because it impacts multiple businesses, 17% of the GDP. It impacts, Americans who want to go out and buy homes and refinance and move. We've had an evaporation of buyers because they're sitting on the sidelines because they also are would-be sellers. They don't want to sell out of that low rate. So again, this is an early indication that the U.S. economy grew at 3% rate in Q2. It's better than expected. Expectation was 2.3%. This was supposed to be the big bad tariff quarter. We're seeing actually a surplus month over month. We saw it in June. We showed that yesterday, I think it was. Scott Bessent talking about the surplus of billions of dollars from tariffs. So these things that were supposed to tear down the economy, there's a great Bill Maher clip floating around the internet. Haley, I don't know if you want to find that. There's this Bill Maher clip where, Bill Maher, lifelong Democrat and obviously Trump, opposer for multiple years, has this clip talking about tariffs. He says, by this time, 100 days in on tariffs, I thought the economy, and he said, I was somebody who thought the economy was going to tank because of the tariffs. I thought we'd be in the tank right now. But we've seen multiple moments where stocks have hit all-time high. We've seen multiple trade deals done. There's a few obviously left to get across the finish line. Do you have it? Yeah, go ahead and this is Bill Maher admitting basically that, tariffs haven't torn down the economy. This is something that Jerome Powell is, I think, a little too late to recognize. He still wants to see more time on what tariffs impact on inflation is going to be. We looked at the, I'll pull it up real quick, Haley, before you do that. I showed this yesterday. This is from somebody, this is a COO, Taylor Morrison. I don't know if I can share mine real quick. This is from Taylor Morrison, COO, National Housing Builder. This is a Fortune 500, 467 of the Fortune 500, $6 billion market cap. Tariffs have not had a meaningful impact. These costs have actually moderated access to trade. Okay, so builders, national home builders, have been beat up more than anybody almost with this high interest rate sensitive time. So obviously wants to see those rates come down. I get that. But on an earnings call, if you need to play blame game because shareholders are looking for returns, an easy blame game would be the one Jerome Powell's doing. Let's wait. I don't know if the tariffs are what the tariffs are going to do. Let's listen to Bill Maher, at least admitting he was wrong about tariffs killing the economy. And again, I've been saying this all along. This is a partisan take, the tariff take. Nobody knew what was going to happen. We knew it was a light switch and a negotiation tactic. Those who were objective and in the middle on this, Bill Maher admitting he was wrong.
Now, I remember along with probably most people, were saying at the beginning, oh, by the 4th of July, somebody had a thing how the the economy was going to be tanked by then. And I was kind of like, well, that seems right to me, but that didn't happen. Now, it could happen tomorrow. I'm just saying that's reality. So let's work first from the reality of that, not from I just hate Donald Trump. Because that's boring and doesn't get us anywhere and leads you to dishonesty.
I think that take is something, you can drop that off there. I think that take is something as we think about business. The hot sheet here is, okay, let's look at what impacts housing. Well, the economy impacts it. Some political decisions. We're going to get into a bipartisan bill that could potentially impact housing. Obviously, what's going on at the Fed. All of these variables impact housing. This is business. And certainly, if you're taking this from a business perspective, what Bill Maher said at the end is just hating President Trump isn't productive. It's useless time and energy. Let's just look at the facts. What's happening? Tariffs actually haven't increased inflation. Tariffs actually haven't tore down the economy. The economy, 3% GDP in second quarter. That's the first full Trump quarter. The expectation was 2.3. That's ripping. The stock market's ripping. So I think what Bill Maher said there is something that, you would hope that more would take that visual on saying, okay, let's just deal with the business talk, the economic talk, take it from there, leave all the emotional stuff off to the side. When you're talking business, you want to, you've got other opinions, obviously, on some of the other stuff. That's totally cool too. All right, let's go into this Housing Act of 2025. This is a bipartisan act. So the Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs announced what seems to be or could be a historic and bipartisan housing package. It's called the Road to Housing Act of 2025, ROAD, all capitalized. I'll go through the different acts that are in this. It is substantial. And so this would be something, if they pull this off, the committee, by the way, voted, the committee made up of both sides, get this, Democrats and Republicans, voted 24-0 by the Senate Banking Committee to push this forward, passing the Road to Housing Act of 2025, 24-0. You're seeing more bipartisan efforts here out of this current climate in DC. Remember the Genius Act, putting stablecoin, putting America as the leader for stablecoin in crypto, was the first law in 10 years, because laws now require, a law requires rather 60 votes out of the Senate. You never get that. The two sides fight like little kids, but they had over the 60 vote threshold to put new law into play with the Genius Act. That was the first time in over 10 years. Nobody gets that kind of stuff done anymore. Now you're seeing bipartisan efforts here to the tune of 24-0, the Road to Housing Act of 2025. So Senator Tim Scott, who was with President Trump during the tour of the Federal Reserve, the new work at the Federal Reserve, he chaired the hearing, Republican from South Carolina, and Elizabeth Warren, Democrat from Massachusetts, she gave the opening statement. So they're working together, bipartisan collaboration. What more do we want? And when it comes down to housing, this is really substantial. So the bill includes 40 separate provisions, and there's proposals from every member, all 24 members of the committee. So all voices are being heard on this deal. Here's some of the stuff that this includes. The bill includes items from this legislative agenda up for growth action. So here are some of the acts. Housing Supply Frameworks Act, the Build More Housing Near Transit Act, the Property Improvement and Manufacturing Housing Loan Modernization Act, the Rural Housing Service Reform Act, the Accelerating Home Building Act, the Build Now Act, the Unlocking Housing Supply Through Streamlined and Modernized Reviews Act, and the Build Housing Act, the Housing Affordability Act, the Housing Supply Expansion Act. If we're just headline reading, if we're just like act headline reading, this sounds pretty good. This sounds pretty good, to channel my Larry David there. Sounds pretty good to me. Okay, let's go to okay, so we have a few statements from some of the senators. I'd like to go through these, Haley. Let's go to Senator Tim Scott. He chairs the committee. Remember this committee, 24-0, bipartisan. Let's go to Tim Scott, how important this first step is.
My colleagues and I on both sides of the aisle share this vision. Today marks a very important first step toward jumpstarting our housing development and making a real difference in the lives of Americans across the country. I want to thank my colleagues to the left for your hard work. There's so many, every piece of legislation I mentioned, almost every single one is a bipartisan bill. Working together as a committee proves to the American people that we can get things done. And it requires, frankly, bipartisanship to get to the president's desk.
Wow,
So
look at that. So yeah, imagine, if, and so maybe housing is a true connector on these two sides, because you got to be an insane person to vote against housing. You'd have to be crazy to say, oh, I don't want better housing solutions for the American people. So maybe this was the easiest way. We did just have the crypto bipartisan law. First time legislation was passed in 10 years like that. Senator Kennedy, let's go to him. He's always a fun one to listen to.
Okay. The most stunning statistic to me is the fact that the median age of a new homeowner, first-time homeowner in America today is 38.
Coming out with stats.
That's almost 40 before you can afford a home. It hasn't been that many years ago that the median age was 29. We've got a problem.
Correct.
Now, housing is only tangentially a federal issue. It's
Correct.
really an issue for local government.
Nailing the points here.
Local government decides, for example, how to zone the land within its jurisdiction. That's good and that's bad, but I respect federalism. So I don't think we need to be telling our friends in local government how to increase the housing stock. I do think that we should use our role, which is to provide the money in a way that incents local government to build more houses. We give $2.3 billion a year in HUD grants to local government for things like housing, sewer, infrastructure, water. $2.3 billion a year. Under Senator Warren and I's proposal, if you increase your housing stock over a 5-year period, you will get extra money.
Okay, pause it right there. This is an interesting plan. First of all, there's two things that are very interesting here. To get Senator Kennedy to say the words under Senator Warren, he's talking about Elizabeth Warren. They couldn't be more opposite in their political beliefs. Senator Kennedy and Senator Warren. If you follow politics at all, you know these two couldn't be more opposite. But for Senator Kennedy to say, under Senator Warren and I's, talking about himself, proposal, so true collaboration on both sides of the aisle. Housing bringing these two sides together. It's being screamed at the top. Remember, this is being screamed now from the mountaintops. I don't think there's a louder voice in America today than this one, consistently week over week. Let people buy, refinance their homes. Okay? It's a loud, I mean, there's more support for this lowering of the rate from the president than there is from the president of NAR. And Kevin, I like you, but that's just the facts. Obviously, bigger megaphone. But this is a moment where you've got both sides coming together, 24-0 to 24-0 to vote. Now, the other thing that's very interesting on what he just said, the $2.3 billion that HUD gives out a year to local governments for housing, sewer infrastructure, you're going to get more locally if you increase housing over a 5-year period. You'll get extra money. This was just, I'm in Connecticut. I'm live from Connecticut today. This was something that was proposed here in Connecticut. Now, what's going to happen with this? You'll have little thinking states, Connecticut. Here we got a lot of little minds in these municipalities, small little local towns. They railed against the state. Okay. I thought we have a Democrat governor here. I thought this was a really interesting plan that he had. It models this national one from HUD. Hey, we want a 5-year plan where everybody's got to kind of meet a certain number. We got 3.65 million people that are in this state. Only bring 2,000 units online a year. Do the math on that. Not sustainable. So 5-year period, have certain metrics, but the little municipalities, the little towns pushed again. Don't tell us what we can do, right? So you're going to have some of that from a federal, local perspective. But the local, if they get this through, and listen, both sides are in line with this. I like this plan. They get this through where you're going to get more money over a 5-year period. Now it comes down to performance. The Sun Belt states, they'll get it. They'll increase stock. The Northeast will make really dumb decisions like they typically do, and they won't get the money, but, reward winners and punish losers. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, let's go to the rest of that. But you're going to hear more of this plan, whether it be locally, and certainly now you're hearing it nationally.
The other side of that coin, if you don't increase your housing stock over a 5-year period, more specifically, if you fall below the median point compared to other states, then you're going to lose 10% of your money. And we're going to take that 10% of the money.
Don't mix pink salt with lemon
Haley.
and 2 other ingredients. If you
Get that off. All right. I'll go through this one. So I'll just go through the rest of them. If you don't increase your housing stock over a 5-year period, you fall below the median point compared to other states, you're going to lose 10% of your money. And we're going to take that 10% of the money from those states, don't reach a median, give it to the states that do. So the winners win on increasing housing stock. And if you're not increasing, you just get less money. By the way, you don't need more money. You're not doing anything. Before my friends in local governments get their bowels up in an uproar rather, we're not telling you how or even if to increase housing stock. So that was the thing I liked about Connecticut. Like, get creative, be a problem solver. You probably shouldn't be running local government if you don't know how to get creative and negotiate deals. Okay. Go figure it out. So we're not telling local governments, is what Kennedy and Warren's plan is on how to do this. It's up to you. Go win. Go compete. Go compete. That's it. I don't want to get into the zoning business. What we're telling you that over a 5-year period, you're going to be compared to your peers. I think this is smart. I think it's brilliant. Having Elizabeth Warren and her side of the aisle on board, having Senator Kennedy, Tim Scott, their side of the aisle on board. Beautiful thing, because it makes sense. Okay? There's no participation trophies here. Go out and compete and increase housing stock, and you're going to get more. Okay? Let's go to Senator Britt, and then we'll finish with Elizabeth Warren. Senator Britt's comments here, Haley, if you got those.
And really appreciate that. Look, this is a great first step to addressing the affordable housing crisis in our country. As Senator Kennedy said, I mean, we hear about this everywhere. So used to, you could buy your first home at the end of your late 20s, and now it's closer to 40 before you can. It doesn't matter who you ask. Most people say that part of their American dream would be owning their own home.
100%.
So whether it is the cost
today,
and
you can drop her
affordability
off.
of that first home, whether it
So that's the point. Even when you go down to Gen Z is not saying they want to rent for the rest of their lives, or they want to, take part of this Jerome Powell renter nation. Gen Z is telling you quite clearly, no, we want to own. We like dogs and cats and, fences and all that stuff. And they want a part. They want a piece of it. People want to own, do their own things. President gets it. Right now, bipartisan bill gets it. 24 Zippo. Jerome Powell's got to get it. We'll see what he says this afternoon. We're going to break it down tomorrow. Senator Elizabeth Warren to close this out.
Thank you, Senator Van Hollen. We need more housing of every kind. Housing for urban areas, housing for rural areas, housing for first-time home buyers, housing for renters, housing for families that are expanding, housing for veterans, housing for people with disabilities, housing for seniors. We need more housing. America's about 7 million housing units short. That means we just got more people, more families than we have housing. And that has created an affordability crisis across this country as more and more people are competing for those houses that remain. The cause of this housing shortage is not a single thing. It's many, many places where we've made bad policy decisions at the federal level, at the state level, and other things that have just changed in our country. The solution won't be a single answer either.
Correct.
And a big part of what this bill is about is pulling together a lot of different pieces. And those pieces focus in two areas. One of them is to lower the costs of building new housing or rehabbing existing housing so that there are more housing units available.
Okay.
And the price of those units.
So she's talking about deregulation. Obviously something unfamiliar to a lot of Elizabeth Warren's other policies in the past, but she is talking about deregulation. Okay, if you're going to make building more affordable, how do you do that? You get off the builder's back. You stop. I mean, Elizabeth Warren's in Massachusetts, and I'm hitting up against the Northeast because I'm from the Northeast. I mean, Massachusetts has some of the dumbest zoning policies in the country, along with their neighbors. So a lot of it is going to come up to creative, local. If they put Warren and Kennedy's plan forward, it's going to come down to local creativity, and the best are going to win. She finished that by saying it feels good, and this does feel good, to come to Congress and do the work that we were sent here to do, to lower costs for American families. So our new job is we've gotten through the committee, 24-0, bipartisan. We need everybody on this committee and everybody who cares about this issue to help us push it to get a vote in the United States Senate to get this thing passed, get it through the House, get it to the president's desk to be signed into bill. Wow. Into law, rather. Nicest thing you could hear both sides saying about each other is in a housing bill like this. Obviously, there's a lot into it. I like the framework of incentivizing the communities that build more housing stock versus those that want to sit on their hands and pretend like the pilgrims are still coming to town. I like rewarding winners. I like the framework. There's a lot of stuff in here. Obviously, we'll look through that over time. All right, we got this will be something obviously Powell and the committee is going to be asked about, looking into, and it's going to be the job market, right? He's got two mandates. It's 2% inflation. Basically there, Jerome doesn't want to recognize it. And then we've got maximum jobs. Okay. So we've got job openings and labor turnover, and then we got ADP, both of which came out today. So Bureau of you got that? All right. Bureau of Labor Statistics, number of job openings, little changed here for the June report, 7.4 million in June. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today. So if you want a job, looking for a job, many job openings, 7.4, well off of the peak of 11 million. Remember, the problem with 11 million job openings is it would inflate salaries. Too high was the fear, which would increase inflation. 7.4, well off of that peak, but still plenty of jobs when you're talking about low 4 percentile on unemployment. Okay. So you've got over the month, both hires and total separations, little change as well. 5.2 million, 5.1 million, with separations, quits, 3.1 million, little changed, while layouts and discharges, 1.6 million, were unchanged. So we're not seeing in the hard data any increase in layoffs. And in fact, we're still seeing plenty of job openings, job opportunities out there, hires, total separations, little changed there. So you see the decline from June 23 to June 25. But where we've been at, there are no changes there. So there you go on the JOLTS report. And to just kind of summarize this, you really do still have what appears in hard data to be a strong labor market. Okay, what does ADP look like? We're going to get another jobs report, obviously, on Friday, the big one. But ADP, National Employment Report, comes out at 104,000. This is the change in U.S. private employment for June. Private employers added 104,000. Hiring gains were led by a resurgence in services, with the exception of education and health, which has posted a net loss of jobs so far this year. Neela Richardson, chief economist, ADP, our hiring and pay data are broadly indicative of a healthy economy. Okay, healthy economy. This is employers have grown more optimistic that consumers, the backbone of the economy, will remain resilient. Just look at what's going on this summer. Are people spending money or not this summer? Okay. Stocks at all-time high. We let off the show talking about quarter 2 GDP. Supposed to come in at 2.3, comes in at 3%. The first full quarter of the Trump administration. Okay. The last piece to this puzzle for the administration, they've got trade deal wins. Love them or hate them. Racking up W's on trade deals. GDP, employment, stock market, all of it wins. Last piece, maybe the loudest voice we're hearing nationally right now, over and over. Every time he talks, it seems like he's talking about housing now. Let people buy and refinance their homes. So if we're looking for a momentum for the housing market, the administration is telling us it starts with rates. Got to cheer on lower rates at this point. All the other signals in the economy are telling us we're ready to start cutting rates. Of course, that meeting takes shape here this afternoon. And the expectation, unfortunately, the degens on poly market, they rarely get something this off. 97% of the degenerates betting on poly market say there will be no change. Maybe even a more reputable source would be the CME group, who tracks this and puts out their own reports at 97% chance there won't be a change. That's the expectation. All sectors of the economy lining up and showing a lot of strength. Mortgage applications here for the last week decreased 3.8% from 1 week earlier. We did see a little bit of a tick up in that week. The last couple of days, we've seen it move down slightly. 10 years not doing much here today. Neither is the stock market as we await the Jerome Powell presser this afternoon. But if we look at the purchase index from year over year, 17% higher than the same week 1 year ago. I think that's 26 straight weeks. And these are big numbers. These are double-digit numbers, over 10 straight weeks of double-digit numbers. So we're starting to see more applications than we saw. Purchase index, though, decreased 6% from the week earlier. And if we look at the commentary here from Mortgage Banker Association, this was the lowest level since May. Purchase and refinance activity declining over the week. Still plenty of uncertainty around the economy and job market. At least that's what Jerome Powell says. We just looked at the hard data, and the hard data doesn't suggest that at all, which is weighing on prospective home buyers' decisions. Joel Kahn, MBA, Vice President, Deputy Chief Economist. All right. It's all about now just waiting to see what's going to happen here with the Fed decision. Stock market is slightly up across the board here. Not any meaningful numbers. Waiting to see what Jerome Powell will say later today. 10 years at 4.368. And the 30-year fixed yesterday did actually tick down for 3 straight days of 6.81. Yesterday comes in at 6.77. So about 6 3/4. We'll see how the markets respond to Jerome Powell today. We'll be waiting for that. What you don't want to wait for is your opportunity to come to BAM Camp, September 24th, Scottsdale, Arizona. This is right around the corner now. VIP tickets are sold out. Okay. I don't know if it does reflect that on the site. VIP tickets are sold out. And if you want the morning mastermind before the main event, this level pricing, I believe, has a handful left. There's not much left. These have sold through very quickly as well. There are still main event tickets left. So September 24th, BAM Camp, Scottsdale, Arizona. If you're in driving distance to Scottsdale, don't wait. This BAM camps are more of our, localized, few hundred. It's not a BAM mania. This thing's going to fill up. And so if you want to join us, BAM Camp, bamcamp.live, September 24th, Scottsdale, Arizona. Looking forward to seeing a whole bunch of West Coasters there. I know there's some folks that are flying in. Love to see you there and spend some time with you at BAM Camp, September 24th. Huge announcement for BAM yesterday. If you missed it, Sharon Srivatsa joins BAM on the board, providing instant, value for BAM X members, similar to what he dropped yesterday inside of school. Sharon released his productivity playbook. You go into BAMX members, just go into the classroom and go to Sharon's knowledge bank, and you've got a productivity playbook right there for you, as well as all of each and every single day, upload all of our hot sheet data here. All the slides that I use each and every single day, housing slides, economic slides, all available for you, as well as my show notes each and every single day, releasing this information for you, BAMX members, inside of school. And then our hyper local new content each and every single week gets dropped into the New This Week classroom. School.com/BAMX to join us there. All right. There's your hot sheet. Tomorrow's the big one. Sub to the channel if you haven't done so already. Share it with a friend you care about in the industry. Tomorrow, we go through the entire Jerome Powell presser as it relates to rates and housing. I will see you then live, 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 on the West Coast. Until then, toodaloo.